Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I do hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live or however you choose to read your clock, this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter and are appreciated. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload, shall we?
Tonight's first encounter. A few years ago, my friends and I decided to take a road trip to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'd just turned 18 and I thought it'd be fun to pack up the car with my boys and hit the road. Santa Fe had always seemed interesting to me as I never really knew or heard too much about New Mexico. The drive was thrilling, full of laughs and good music. We checked into our hotel and settled down. We were staying at the Hotel Santa Fe, an adobe-styled hotel in the center of a very small town. The town felt strange from the get-go. Maybe it was just me. First of all, most businesses closed early, at around 5 p.m. or so, and when they closed, they closed. The doors were locked, the lights were out. It seemed all the locals were nowhere to be found, or asleep by 8. Santa Fe gives off an eerie vibe. It's definitely a spiritual small town. But at times it felt like something more sinister was afoot. Something was in the air, but I digress. After settling down into our rooms, we hit the streets to walk and get a bite to eat and shop. There wasn't much that interested our group as we were all teenage boys, and the town is more geared towards older retirees or avid southwestern art collectors. But nevertheless, we were still considerate of the culture and full of curiosity, which would later be a poor mistake. As evening came, the sky filled with a beautiful pink sunset. Most of my friends in the group were tired and ready to relax over some beers back at the room, but my closest friend and I were still not satisfied. We chilled in the room with the group until late into the night, and everyone fell asleep. But our raging curiosity still was not cured. You see, me and my friend John are avid urban explorers. We loved exploring abandoned buildings and had a lot of experience. We even made a social media account where we would post pics and videos of our findings. Now that we were in Santa Fe, we were thrilled to get out and explore the unknown. Around 2 in the morning rolled around, and we snuck out of our hotel room, careful not to wake the others, and set to the streets for an adventure. When we stepped outside into the night, we were greeted with a very peculiar experience. The town was desolate, like nothing I had ever seen before. Not a soul was out. So much so we walked down the middle of the street because there wasn't a car in sight. It was slightly unsettling, as it still felt like we were being watched. An uncanny feeling. The best way I can explain how quiet it was there at night was when we walked down the street, we approached an intersection and jokingly stood under the traffic lights. The town was so empty and quiet we could actually hear the bulb clicking as the light changed from red to green. It was an odd feeling, being the only ones out. I've been in towns the night before, and yes, it's quiet, but there's still the occasional bar open with some distant music or an occasional homeless person, but Believe me when I say Santa Fe was empty. We proceeded to explore the town, climbing on the top of a few buildings to get some pictures and exploring a few buildings. But our curiosity still was not cured. We decided to continue walking until we came to a nearby river, hoping we could find a nearby drainage tunnel we could explore. We proceeded. As we approached the river, we noticed there was a small tunnel/bridge that went over the river. As we walked through the brush and approached the water, we got a better look into the tunnel. It looked like there was a dim light coming from under the bridge. We walked closer and closer without our flashlights on, just enjoying the moonlight. There we were, standing at the mouth of this tunnel, and suddenly John whispers to me, "Wow, do you see that?" We were met with an unsettling view of about 10 to 15 candles on the ground lighting up the underside of the bridge. We proceeded to walk in to check out what was going on. Suddenly we heard movement that broke the silence. That's when we immediately turned on our flashlights and focused them into the tunnel. There was a figure sitting on the ground. At first, I couldn't tell if it was a pile of rocks, and my eyes were playing tricks on me. We got closer to the figure, and it moved. That's when I felt my heart start pounding, but I tried to reassure myself, thinking maybe it was a homeless person. I focused my flashlight to its smallest beam that would illuminate the figure. We stopped in our tracks, and just stood there staring at what my light was fixed on. A bald man with absolutely no hair or anything on the back of its head, just sitting there looking the opposite direction. My light was shining directly on the back of its head. We stood there for a good 10 seconds, just waiting for him to turn his head around. That's when we realized its head was facing us. I shined my light a bit lower to illuminate its torso. This man thing had absolutely no face. Just perfectly smooth, no ears either, nothing, just sitting there still. It felt like it was staring at us, but there were no eyes. We both realized what we were looking at the same time. John whispered to me, where's its face?" That's when it got up. At this moment, I felt my blood run cold. It picked something up off the ground, and we ran. We ran so fast, I felt for the first time I was legitimately running for my life. As we exited the tunnel, we ran for higher ground and got to the top of the bridge, so the mouth of the tunnel was below us. I shined my flashlight down onto the ground. That's when I saw the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. The thing came out of the tunnel and just stood there. It stepped into the light of my flashlight. It was holding what looked like some sort of weapon, almost like a metal pitchfork or trident, and looked directly at us. There we were, just frozen. I shined my flashlight directly on its face once more, and for a good 20 seconds we stood there, in complete terror, as it stood there motionless. No face, just smooth skin. There were a few features on the top of its bald head, almost like horns, but I'm not sure what they were. Then suddenly it started bolting towards us. That's when we heard it. It made a strange sound. The best I could describe would be an anger hum, like if you were to scream with your mouth closed. This thing was angry, running towards us, waving its pitchfork thing in the air. We ran as fast as we could back to the hotel. We finally made it back, still shaking. I was sick with adrenaline. As we caught our breath in the elevator, we both looked at each other. The next day, we didn't even bother telling the rest of the group. One, because we knew it'd sound too unbelievable, and two, because we were both too shaken up about it. To this day, we still don't talk much about what we had seen, but recently John had mentioned it to me. We were talking about the trip as he lowered his voice and said, "You saw that too, right?" Looking back, I decided to do some research on New Mexico, finding out that the government has done many secret experiments in the desert, and the area has many Native American burial grounds. The land is a cocktail for the uncanny. I often wonder if what we saw was some mutant human as a result of the Manhattan Project, a nuclear test done in the desert of New Mexico. There are rumors that the government not only tested their bombs on test-built structures, but humans. Maybe we saw a mutant, or maybe it was some sort of native spirit. But I'm still not much of a supernatural believer. Regardless, I will never be able to explain what we saw that night, and will never forget the view of the faceless man looking at us. Tonight's second encounter. We live in North Texas. My boyfriend's house is a 2-story home, the upstairs consisting only of the master suite. The staircase starts across from the kitchen and goes straight up into a wall. There's a 90-degree angle opening to the bedroom door. There are no vents on this staircase. Once inside that door, there is a small hallway section that has doors on either side, one to the bathroom and the other to the closet. From there, you walk into a room, on one side being a bed, on the other having a lounge area with a TV and recliner. I had stayed at my boyfriend's house a few times and had a few experiences where, when in the home alone, I would hear very distinct sounds of boots stomping around downstairs. I'm not a stranger to ghostly activity, so I kind of laughed it off, but did not let it bother me too much. My boyfriend said that he has had a few paranormal encounters in the home, but nothing like this. One night I was lying in bed watching television. My boyfriend was standing by the hallway leading into the room with our cat. He was commenting on feeling a draft under the door, which is strange because, again, there are no vents in the hallway leading into the room is a 90-degree angle. I hear the door start to creak open and see him and the cat react at the same time and snap toward the door. Then hear the door slam shut and boots running up and down, up and down, up and down the stairs. This continued for a few moments, then stopped. This was horrifying. I didn't know how to handle myself. This same sound happened multiple times every few nights for a couple of weeks. We would be trying to sleep and hear boots up and down the stairs, but nobody would be there. It happened so often that we eventually just learned to ignore it. Then the activity stopped, seemingly out of nowhere. Additionally, in the master closet, there is a small hatch in the ceiling that leads to an additional attic space that is not accessible from the main attic. Sometimes we can hear shuffling around up there and walking. My boyfriend refuses to look up there ever since moving, in fear that he may find something scary. We recently had an inspector look up there because we were having our insulation redone, and he said it looks practically untouched up there, no sign of any animal activity. I'd come to terms that maybe there was a ghost in the house, but recent events have led me to believe there is something far worse. I have since moved into the house with my pets. Our couch is a sectional, and when lying on the far side, you can see straight towards the back door. Our back door has a storm door with a doggy door on it, and we call all the dogs in for night and close the actual back door, which does not have a doggy door on it. One night after dinner, I was watching a movie on the couch while my boyfriend was upstairs playing video games. I heard scratching at the door and went to open it to find my Shih Tzu had been locked outside. I let him in and pet him. He growled a bit and ran off. This isn't very unusual for him, to be honest. He's a jerk, so I didn't think too much of it. I went back to watching my movie. A while later, my boyfriend came downstairs to join me, and I let him know that he must have locked Odie outside when he had called the dogs in. He swears to me that Odie had been upstairs with him the entire time. He swore that he was lying on his lap and actually kind of annoying him, getting in his way while he was trying to play his game. We had kind of a heated, half-joking but almost serious disagreement about this because we both swear we saw oatmeal in two different places at once. We agreed to disagree, and I let the incident go. It was weird, it was really weird, but I decided that my boyfriend must have been mistaken, and Odie must have joined him for games after I let him in. And my boyfriend must have been so enthralled in the games, he just assumed Odie was there the whole time. A month or so later, another incident with this shadow oatmeal occurs. I wake up for work and bring oatmeal downstairs with me so he can go outside. I always close the bedroom door behind me when I do this so Odie doesn't go back upstairs and wake my boyfriend up, because once Odie is awake, all he wants to do is play. I go to work and come home. I don't think anything of it. Once I get home, my boyfriend is telling me how Odie had to sleep downstairs last night because he had gotten in trouble after I went to bed. I laugh at the story and ask my boyfriend when he softened up and let Odie back in. He gets immediately confused and says, I didn't. I told him that when I woke up this morning, Oatmeal was sleeping by my feet as always, and I took Odie downstairs this morning. We again have a disagreement because we swear we saw him in 2 different places at once. I again brush it off. This leads us to now, when the absolute most horrifying thing to happen happens. We were in bed watching videos on our phone. I'm on my side facing the wall. Oatmeal is laying against my feet on the edge of the bed. I feel something coke up between me and my boyfriend. I assume it's the cat. It turns a couple of times and settles in. I think this is a bit strange because my cat usually only sleeps on top of me. If I move him, he will just keep climbing back up. But I don't turn. About 5 minutes later, I hear a growl. That is unmistakably Oatmeal coming from the lump between me and my boyfriend. And I hear my boyfriend scold Oatmeal and shoo him off the bed. I tell myself that that must be my cat by my feet then. My boyfriend turns on his bedside lamp and Oatmeal is sleeping soundly next to my feet. My cat is sleeping in a ball across the room. We are both in shambles. My boyfriend starts frantically searching the room with a flashlight and a knife, not knowing what to do with himself. He says he was petting what he thought was Oatmeal, but once he got to the creature's head, its face was hairless and the creature growled and bit him and ran off the bed. At this point, I'm near in tears. Now we're freaked out. All of the dots are starting to connect. Is it not a ghost, but this creature living above our bedroom in the attic, running up and down the stairs? Our husky suffered a large wound this week, where she mysteriously cut off nearly her entire paw pad. It was hanging on by a thread, and luckily we were able to get it stitched back on. We searched our entire backyard and couldn't find the source of the incident. It literally looks like someone took a knife and sliced her paw pad. The vet said the laceration goes completely under her pad and barely misses her artery. We at first assumed she must have cut it on the fence, but there was no blood anywhere on or directly by the fence. They have lived here for years without incident. Yes, this could be entirely unrelated, but could this be the creature's fault as well? 5 words: get out of that house. Wow, that is terrifying. That is just straight up terrifying. Can you imagine you're that poor boyfriend? You're just dozing off, start petting your dog, and all of a sudden you feel this hairless face and it growls and bites you? Yeah, not so much either, huh? Wow. Moving on. Today's third experience. I haven't told this much, and it still creeps me out to this day. When I was 12 years old, about 2013, I moved to this old house built in the 40s. No one had lived in the house in over 30 years, and it was the first fall I had ever seen at this house. I was taking trash out to our back porch, and from there, I could see the tree line that's normally very green and hard to see through, but seeing how it's fall, the leaves are almost all fallen off. As I walked out to take the trash out, I look at the tree line about 30 to 40 yards away, and I see 4 to 5 of these 7-foot tall, pure white humanoid, no-faced creatures. I stand there in awe, not knowing what to think. It honestly looks like they're talking with hand gestures, but I couldn't hear anything. Now that I think of it, I heard nothing at the time, no birds, bugs, or even the trees moving with the visible moving branches. I scream, "Hey!" to which the creatures become motionless like statues. I then proceed to ask, "Who are you?" To which I stand there for a second before the creatures dispersed. Now I could see far into the woods, and they all went in separate ways, not even hearing a leaf or a twig crack when they fled. They ran off so quickly that it seemed like a blur. To be honest, after that I had completely forgotten about the experience until the other night. Now, as I said, I was young, and at this time my mom worked the night shift and wasn't there when I screamed at these creatures. FYI, I lived on essentially farmland, but my neighbors could easily walk up the driveway in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. Later that night, maybe 9 p.m., I heard knocking on the back door, the one where it led to the back porch where the creatures were, and I thought maybe my mom told the neighbors to go check on me, so I went and checked it out. I go to the back door, I turn the back porch light on, and open it to where no one was there. Casually, I chopped it up to maybe one of the dogs hitting the door or something around it. Now, after this knocking kept coming from that door, and it was weird because every time I rounded a door to where I could see the back door, the knocking stopped. Now this happens a few more times every few minutes, ranging from when I would turn my back from the door to when I sat back on my bed, to just waiting 5 to 10 minutes before it happens again. After about an hour of this and increasing anxiety, I got fed up and went outside to scream, "I don't know who you are, but you better stop." To my surprise, it did, for about 30 minutes. The knocking came from around the house, on the windows, doors, and walls from the outside for another 30 minutes. I was scared, curled in the corner of my bed. After 30 minutes, there was one last bang beside my window that it felt like it had shook the house, and was so shocked the window did not break. That was the end of it. Nothing for the rest of the 5 years we lived there. The shocking part was the outside was old, as stated, and could honestly be broken with one good swing to the exterior. But where that final bang was, there was no sign of any impact. Honestly, I think that's what scared me the most, that this creature could full force shake my house and leave no damage. Now, I live in Tennessee, by the way, if this maybe helps you figure out where and what this thing came from. And tonight's final experience. I had recently moved a few minutes away from my old house in rural Illinois. My old house was situated on a farm with 40 acres of land. Me and my sister had had our fair share of creepy, maybe paranormal happenings, but nothing this bad, and I'm afraid that whatever lived on our property there has followed us to our new home. Little backstory, my sister takes one of our dogs to check out the horses in the paddock because they're making noises. She says she hears something behind her and turns to see an 8-foot unnaturally skinny thing. She had said she had fallen to the ground and was paralyzed with fear as she was lying. The dog, who will cower at anything, goes into full attack mode and starts going crazy. At that point, I run outside with my aunt, and we see her on the ground, no ungodly being. I was very skeptical until 2 months later. I go to my friend's house, who lives right down the road, on Halloween for a sleepover, and he shows me 2 videos from his security camera. The first showed a pale arm hanging over their front porch. The second showed a figure touching the lens of the camera and a long arm reaching up. Something to keep in mind is that his deck, where the camera is situated, is around 12 feet above ground. In the middle of all of this, his parents see what we are doing and get super mad and scold him about how these videos are not to be shown to anyone. They then went into the other room, and the rest of the sleepover went normal without anything of that nature happening again. But that is what kick-started the whole thing. Present day. As of about 2 months ago, I had a dream where I was with my dad, sister, and friends going to an old amusement park of sorts. This place is indoors, with the exception of a paintball area outside, and it had a jungle gym, arcade, birthday rooms, etc. The place has been shut down for years, and in the dream it looked way more dilapidated than what it looks like in real life. When we parked the car, my vision zoomed up to the roof, and it had a deer with blood all over it. The deer appeared to be dead, lying there. We get closer to the building, and my vision zooms up to a sign, and now the deer is staring at me with a gigantic smile full of human teeth and saliva dripping onto the pavement. At this point, I was a bit unnerved, but we still went inside anyway. The inside of this place looked just how it did when I was a kid, with everything in perfect condition. I turned my back on the group for maybe 10 seconds to look at the prizes. And when I turned back, the whole place turns into what it looked like on the outside. Everything's rotting, no lights except for one. One single light is shining on my group. The people I thought were my friends and family are now gray and pale, black eyes with blood coming out of their mouths and pointing at me with a black expression. This deer comes behind them, and they all, including the deer, start saying, "Let death erupt, you are going to die. You are going to die with your eyes wide open." It started as a whisper and upped in volume until they were all practically screaming. I woke up. But right before the deer say one thing that I still have imprinted in my brain: remember me. I had that same dream last night, and nothing changed except the deer. It had grown to around what I think would be double the size. Tonight I went and locked up the chicken coop. I was walking back inside and heard "remember me," and shortly after came closer. I told you, remember me. The voice sounded like me, but had an odd tone and sinister undertone. It sounded like an impressionist who tried to impersonate me, but who had smoked for 30 years, very raspy and false. This leads me to right now. Nothing else has happened, and it all stopped the second I got inside. I've told nobody. I will. Not anybody. If anybody has any idea what this is, please help me out.
And there you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed this early morning or middle of the night bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that keeps the channel growing and going, and honestly what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.